If you haven't been involved in scouting recently, there's a lot more to it than you'd imagine. We'll tell you all about it coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Florence Civic Center. We're focused on the Distinguished Citizens Award Dinner of the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts, which was held here last Thursday evening. And we're visiting with David Grantham of Griggs, Floyd, and Grantham Real Estate, a board member also with the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Greg.
Golly, all those titles. You got a lot going on.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's a lot of fun trying to keep up with it.
That's a heck of a lot of work, and such an amazing evening last Thursday night. To think about all the activities that went into making that a successful night. I think Mark Bike was saying there were 500 folks there.
At least. We had a wonderful turnout. Didn't realize how successful it would be, but understanding the recipient, Dr. Frank Lee Sr., no doubt he has a lot of great colleagues and following in the community for all the great things he's done.
Absolutely, and I think Bernie Moore had a lot of his fans. I mean, he's got so many fans and family, and of course so many of the folks who grew up under him getting out to celebrate his life.
Well, Bernie is a longtime resident of Florence, just like Dr. Frank Lee Sr., and a lot of the people in the audience, Bernie probably had them in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and Bernie is really the epitome of what scouting is all about.
Absolutely. David, real quick about yourself, for viewers who may not have caught you on air before or know you in person, are you originally from the area?
Yeah, Florence is home.
Oh, great. And where's home now?
Right here on Wisteria Drive, right here in Florence.
Close at hand. Where'd you attend school and what'd you study?
I was, as far as in the Florence schools, I was here, right here in School District 1 throughout my time in school, and then actually went on to the University of South Carolina, majored in finance and real estate, and came on back to Florence and went to work.
You came straight back after graduating from college, straight back to Florence.
Right.
Well, you haven't left for long. I mean,
no, it's when you kind of know a good place, it's real easy to make a decision to come right on back, and it was real easy for me to do that.
And how long have you been in the real estate business now, David? Not to date you, because we're going to add all that together after college.
Well, I tell everybody I'm 25 years old, but the real estate makes me look this old. But actually, I was licensed in 1972. So
is that right?
Long time.
Golly. And what's your area of expertise?
We specialize really in residential and residential construction, do some developing and some commercial development.
Did you grow up in scouting, David?
Well, I actually was in the Cub Scouts. As a lot of young people, as I got into the Boy Scout era, I kind of switched over to sports in the high school and kind of concentrated most of my efforts in the activities of sports, mainly football.
How about any of your family members? Have they been involved in scouting?
Right. I have a son who's graduated from West Florence last year and is a freshman in college who actually went to the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts. He kind of followed in my footsteps a little bit. Almost got his Eagle badge, but kind of got into the athletics and football and didn't quite make it, but certainly it was a wonderful experience for him to be in scouting.
How do you think, when you think about all the activities, being a board member and thinking about just the activities of scouting in general, how do you think a young man or young woman benefits from participation in scouting?
Well, when you think about the difficult times today, young children who may have two parents working, the opportunity that scouting gives young people, boys or girls, to grow up ethically, morally, and to give them the choices that it's so difficult to make nowadays, and the right choices to make. Scouting plays such an important role today.
And that's obviously what prompted you to accept the nomination to become a board member.
Right. You know, I had a son in there, which I wanted to be as close to him as I could, and as he has gotten out of scouting, the people that are there, the rewards that you get from, on my side as a board member, we provide the resources and the policies that National sets for us. The scoutmasters like Bernie Moore, who teach and work with these young children and watch them grow and give them the moral support that they need, they're the ones that really make scouting what it is today.
Absolutely. And David, what's been your role on the board?
Well, as an executive board member for about 5 or 6 years, I've come on the executive board the last few years as an assistant treasurer. And so we just basically try to provide the funding that's needed. And as times are a little bit softer nowadays, and for a nonprofit organization, it's that much harder to make the programs that you want to provide these children to work. But it's just such a rewarding experience in having the opportunity with Dr. Frank Lee Sr. and Bernie to be recognized. The funds that come in from these activities and the dinner that was held really provides a lot of the resources that help these children in the PD area.
So very important. And I'm glad you mentioned Bernie. I think on Tuesday he said he's been treasurer for 30 years. So you are actually closely working with Bernie there.
We're hoping he has 30 more, because
yes,
there's so many things that he knows about that most people on the board really don't have a clue of what is there. And Bernie's expertise and experience really provides a wonderful foundation for the board to continue the opportunities that it does in the PD.
Yes, David, growing up in the PD area, and when we think about last Thursday night's program marking the 75th anniversary of the PD Area Council, growing up in the area, can you talk for a little bit or just a minute about the honoree, Dr. Frank Lee Sr.?
You know, what I know about Dr. Frank Lee, I've seen him through the community. I don't think the community as a whole realizes he's a very humble individual, very quiet behind the scenes. The opportunities that he has given Florence and the children of the PD is just remarkable. Like I say, he doesn't like to be recognized. I think it was almost pulling teeth to recognize him, but he's done just so much. If you look at just like the county library through the Bruce Lee Foundation, which he is instrumental in providing, and so many other nonprofit agencies in the community, without his ability of foresight and his ability to recognize what this community needs and what it takes to increase the quality of life, there are not many people in the community like Dr. Frank Lee Sr.
Exactly right. And of course, not too many people like Bernie Moore either. Would you have a message of congratulations for Bernie?
Well, having known Bernie as long as I have as a youth and being around him so long, it just is almost gets you tearful to be able to see him get to this point in scouting and to tell him what a great job he's done, and we hope he spends many more years in scouting, and certainly on the treasurer side, and myself and Webb Jones, who is also an assistant treasurer, we're going to need Bernie's help for years to come. And we congratulate him.
Very, very much. Absolutely. David, why do you think it's important the scouting experience continues to be available to young people in our community?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, the youth today don't have the opportunities that I think we had earlier in life. The fact that we do have dual parents trying to make ends meet and provide the resources that their children need. Scouting has the opportunity for morally, ethically, to have them become good citizens and to become a part of a community to help it grow and to increase its quality of life. And I think scouting provides all these benefits that schools can't provide, and a lot of times even parents can't provide. It's an additional avenue that allows a youth to become a grown woman or a grown man. You know.
And as you think about that aspect as a board member, and you can really recognize some of the challenges facing the community, what do you see for some of the big challenges facing the PD Area Council going forward, David?
Well, like any organization, you know, we try to continue to build in the numbers of individuals that come into scouting. We want to provide a service to every youth. Whether they can afford it or not, we will not turn anyone away. And when you have that policy that no one would be turned away from scouting, the resources that are needed to operate are tremendous. And it's just an opportunity to try to provide these resources by whatever way we can to increase the benefits that the youth of the PD have through scouting.
David, you think about service on the board for the last 5 or 6 years. Can you think of any accomplishment in particular of which you're most proud over your tenure on the board?
I don't know if there's one particular item. I think as you look back at each one of these functions for our distinguished citizens and being able to truly recognize the individuals, Dr. Eddie Floyd, Billy Powers, those that have been before Dr. Frank Lee Sr., these individuals are here in Florence. They've grown up in Florence, and they've not left Florence. And that contribution that these guys have made through their ability to be selected, I think shows the quality of scouting based on the selection group. And I think that in itself, along with the resources that have been increased at Camp Coker over in Hartsville, that 5 or 6 years ago, you had to open latrines. Today, we've got just a state-of-the-art, one of the finest scouting facilities in the country. And all that has to do with the resources and the people that have come in to the executive board and the board of directors to provide these services for the scouting in the PD.
You're exactly right. And of course, the PD Area Council serves such a large area, those 11 counties, and to think of the commitment that, as you even highlight, those men of the Florence community have made such an impact on those 11 counties throughout, and so many of the other distinguished citizens over the years. It is amazing to think that the council's been able to stay together so large.
It's unbelievable to just recognize the fact that as spread out as we are, and to find the resources that the PD Area Council has put together for these 9,000, 10,000 kids that are in scouting today is just an accomplishment in itself.
It is. David, what does scouting mean to you?
Scouting, Greg, is just almost like the backbone of a child's rearing. The ability to be trustworthy, to be honest, to be ethical, morally correct in the things that he does or she does. And this is the foundation that I think all parents, all adults want their children to have, and scouting provides this. And I think this is one of the benefits and one of the things that means so much to me for being on the board and trying to help them participate and accomplish some of the goals that we set each year.
Those words are key. David Grantham laid them out very well, and the key word is backbone. To think of that commitment being both the backbone and the foundation, being train up a child in the way he or she should go, and when they are old, they will not depart. Those words are biblical. And David Grantham, thanks for sharing them with us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to the Honorable Terry Alexander coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Florence Civic Center. We're focused on the Distinguished Citizens Award Dinner of the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts, which was held here last Thursday night. And we're visiting with Reverend Terry Alexander, the interim pastor at Wayside Chapel Missionary Baptist Church, a Florence County councilman and executive board member for the PD Area Council. Good morning.
Good morning.
Reverend Terry Alexander. I want to say, Terry, can we call you Terry?
That's just fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing to think of. That's 3 big titles there.
Yeah.
County councilman. How long have you been on county council?
13 years now.
Is that
13
right?
13 years. Yeah.
Have you ever had any opposition?
Yes. I had a write-in candidacy back in 98, but that was all right.
So you're pretty solid with this.
Not really. You know, you're never solid because you never really know. You know, this is the people's seat.
Exactly.
You know, and they can take you out anytime they want, as you know what's happening out in California.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you've obviously been serving the community pretty dang well to be on 13 years.
Yeah, we try to work well for the community and, you know, do what we can within our means and try to make things happen for the livelihood of the citizens of Florence.
Absolutely. I remember last year when you were on, I think we were taping at the Florence Fairgrounds. We were focused on the Florence County Fair, and you were there representing County Council. I think at that time you were the associate pastor at Trinity Baptist Church. When did you take on the interim pastor role at Wayside Chapel Missionary Baptist?
Back in March of this year. Kind of took place in March of this year.
How has that been?
I'm loving it. We're having a great time. You know, things are good. I'm just having a marvelous time doing that. You know, something I wanted to do, always wanted to do.
That's a great commitment.
Yeah, it is, and I love every minute of it.
Truly serving people.
Yes, yes.
Terry, real quick about yourself for viewers who may not live here in the PD or in Florence in particular. Are you a native to the area?
I'm born and raised here in Florence. I went to high school here in Florence. Went to McClinican High School, as a matter of fact, here in Florence. I went to school in Durham and came back, finished up at Francis Marion. Got a bachelor's degree from there. Then I went on up to Howard and got a Master's of Divinity degree from Howard University School of Divinity. So Florence is my home. I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be here.
Terry, and you have family here?
Yeah, my wife. I have a wife, Starlee Alexander. She owns and operates a State Farm Insurance Agency in Florence. And I have a son, Matthew, who's at the house, and a daughter and her husband. They're not at the house, but they're at the house, you know, and a granddaughter. So, yeah, my family's here.
That's great. That's great. In addition to your work with the County Council and as an interim pastor at Wayside Chapel Missionary Baptist, are you involved in any other businesses?
Well, I do some consulting work for the Employment Security Commission. What I do is provide career information to middle schools and high schools throughout the PD area of the state and up down to Berkeley. And what that is basically is a career development resource for the students in the schools. And we go in and talk with teachers and students and help them to incorporate career occupation into the school systems and help them put it into their curriculum so the students can begin to start thinking about various careers and occupations and what it is that they can do to improve themselves or to make better career choices.
With a master's in divinity from Howard, how did you get into this career?
Well, I went to school in Washington on weekends, and I was still working during the week. And I would leave home on Friday morning and go to Howard, and it just worked out fine for me. It just worked out well.
The Employment Security Commission, is that when you think of when you say who are your clients and where are they located? I mean, you're traveling all over.
Yeah, I work in about 15 counties, and I visit maybe about 200 schools in those counties, and I enjoy talking with the teachers and the students just to hear what they're thinking and saying about various careers and occupations.
Terry, were you involved in scouting as a youngster?
Yeah, I was involved in the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts. As a matter of fact, I still have my Boy Scout uniform at home. Wouldn't let my son touch it, you know. So and it's so interesting because the church that I was at, Trinity Baptist Church, that I'm a member of technically, is we have retained our troop number, Troop 104. So, yes, I've been very active in the Boy Scouts here.
Are any of your children involved in the Scouts?
My son was involved in the Boy Scouts. Had a nephew involved in the Boy Scouts. Had a niece in the Girl Scouts, stuff like that, yeah.
Golly, how does a young man or woman benefit from their participation in the scouting program?
Well, it does a couple of things, I think. Number one, it helps them to develop some level of discipline. And in scouting, you know, it's not an individual type thing. It's more so of a group type organization. So you have the opportunity to learn how to work with others who may be different from you. And I think that really helps you out in developing who you are when you can work with other folks who are different from you to try and achieve the same type goal. So it's very, very beneficial. And you learn so many disciplines, you learn so many arts and crafts, and you meet so many great folk and have the opportunity to just share with others about what's going on. So it's a real good opportunity for kids to be a part of the Boy Scouts.
Terry, some kids are concerned about wearing uniforms and all the other things that go along with scouting. How do you help a child get beyond that and really focus on the ultimate benefits of scouting?
And I think that has a lot to do with the scout master in terms of what is expected of the kids once they get there. I think it's a great thing for them to dress in the uniforms. And, you know, and when you see them in parades and some dress properly, I mean, in terms of uniform and not having a uniform, to me it kind of takes away from it. To be dressed, you know, coordinated with your greens or your browns or whatever it is you're wearing, I think it sends a message to others that this is a very sharp troop, they're disciplined, they're doing what their Scoutmaster's saying. And it sends a message of pride, too, for those individual kids who are dressing as their Scoutmaster have told them to dress. And it just sends a very positive-looking message when all the kids are lined up in their scouting uniforms, and a sense of discipline, if you will.
So you've been able to really help them focus more on that, the final goal of really being active in scouting and less in being worried about how they look.
And how they look, because they're competing now. Our kids today, when we was coming through the Scouts, we didn't have it to compete against us. The skating rinks and the bowling alleys and the malls and the shopping centers, we just had Boy Scouts. So, you know, whatever our Scoutmasters told us to do, we did it. you know, now kids are competing. You know, we are competing, rather, with our kids for other stuff, peers. You know, a lot of the Scouts are able to do and go so many other places where we did not have the opportunity to go. So once you can get kids in there and show them the discipline aspect of it and to follow the rules and the regulations, really in the long run they would benefit more from it.
You know, as you're talking, I'm sitting here thinking, how can Terry Alexander do all this? To think of the commitment he's made to youth, to think about being a county councilman, to serve in 15 counties and traveling around to 200 schools, to think about being the interim pastor at Wayside Chapel Missionary Baptist. How are you able to do all that, as well as being the real focus that obviously this morning is on your executive board membership of the PD Area Council? How do you do it?
Well, it's called time management, you know, and I'm still trying to figure that out too, you know. But you know, we do whatever we want to do. You know, if we want to do something real bad, you set the time to make it happen. And, you know, you set your priorities. And every now and then you have to go back and reevaluate where I am and say, okay, now where am I going to put my emphasis? And then that's what you do. But it's called time management. And
that's right.
Doing whatever it is that we want to do, because we'll do that, you know.
Terry, what's been your role on the board? You've just been on a short time.
Yeah, it's been not quite a year. And what we are attempting to do, particularly from my perspective, is trying to increase the minority involvement in scouting. There have been a slight decrease, there's been a large decrease, if you will, in terms of recruiting minority kids, and we're trying to get that back on track. It takes a little while because a lot of the kids just don't see, you know, the need or the purpose for being in scouting or Boy Scouting. They don't see it as being a macho type thing. And to me, it's very macho. You know, when you go and spend the night out in the woods.
right.
You know what I mean? You just don't go out there and spend the night in the woods. It's very macho when you can go canoeing and, you know, and swimming in lakes and rivers and stuff of that nature. You know, and that's kind of exciting. So we're trying to, you know, rejuvenate, if you will, scouting in the minority communities. And it hasn't been a very easy task, because we are trying to find scout masters and scout leaders. And that is the task, getting some folks committed and their willingness to serve and be with these kids on a weekly basis or a bi-monthly basis, how often they choose to do so. And that takes a strong commitment from the scout leaders and the scout masters in the area. And we're looking for them.
Absolutely.
You know, male or female.
Yeah, if a viewer knows somebody, and they can surely call the council or call you directly.
Right, and we'll be willing to come out and do whatever is necessary to get kids involved in the scouting.
Well, obviously not as many people are as good at time management as you are. I mean, you know, really know how to manage their time well. Otherwise, there'd be volunteers all the time for organizations.
Well, I'm still learning that process too. But again, we do what we want to do.
Right.
You know, if they want to give their time, they'll work it out.
Terry, we just got a couple of minutes. Wanted to, real quick, last week's program obviously marked the 75th anniversary of the PD Area Council. Thursday night's dinner was amazing. So many folks were highlighted. Were there any special memories of the evening that really stand out?
Well, I think recognizing Dr. Lee, who's been a pillar in our community here, he's given so much of his time, his talent, and his personal possessions to the growth and the development of Florence, and we're just so excited about him receiving that award. And we just look forward to a bigger and better year, and hope that this is something that he could really, really cherish throughout the remainder of his life there, basically. So we're real excited about what has taken place here this past week. And 75 years of scouting, you know, that's not a short period of time. And there's something about scouting, the longevity that it has, and then we're able to we're able to honor those who've been a part of scouting. So we're excited about that whole affair.
Absolutely. Terry, lastly, what does scouting mean to Terry Alexander?
Well, scouting means to me is your ability to communicate and to work along with other kids and to give of yourself for the future. Scouting not only helps you today, but scouting helps you tomorrow. And I often tell young folks, what you're doing today is going to make or break you tomorrow. So if you make those right choices and do those right things today, the chances of you developing will be much greater. And that's why I see scouting is doing. It's giving them a different choice, a better choice in terms of spending their time and to developing their personality and their manliness or their womanness, if you will, if there's such a term.
What you're doing today will affect tomorrow dramatically. And Troop 104 was a part of his life as a youth, then a part of his son's life, and remains an amazing part of so many lives. Getting folks in scouting is so valuable, and obviously the Honorable Terry Alexander is doing just that.
Thank you.
Terry, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Appreciate what you do for us.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank David Grantham and the Reverend Terry Alexander for making such a huge commitment to youth in our community.